Good day, Crime Talk aficionados. We have another great show for you today. First, Luigi Mangione appears in a Manhattan court for his second day of pretrial hearings. Day 2 of the Brian Walshe murder trial. Our favorite Wisconsin inmate, who already has forever on her schedule, picks up an extra 90 days for good measure. A firebug caught laughing as he watched the house he set fire to with, 4 people inside. An Alabama lawyer allegedly turns Till Death Do Us Part into a 3-act fentanyl drama. And we've got this day in legal history. Our quote of the day has to deal with sentencing and retribution and our dumb criminal. Let's talk about it.
All right, lawyer.
Good day, everyone. My name is Scott Reich, and this is Crime Talk. Thanks for joining us. You know the drill. Subscribe if you haven't, like if you do, leave me a comment below, hit that little bell for notifications, and remember, you can check us out on any of your favorite podcasting apps. Before we get started, let me remind you to go to crimetalksearch.com. Sign up for a background subscription today. You know, if you've been here for a while, you know about it. If you're new to it, listen. If somebody's coming new into your life, go check them out. You know, somebody you're going to date, maybe the kids that your kids are hanging out with, you don't like, check out their families, see what's going on. Information is power, ladies and gentlemen. Go check out people that are coming into your life. Do it now. Also, let me remind you, go to the link below, check out the Crime Talk merch. Christmas is coming. What is it? It was Cyber Monday. And now we've got Giving Tuesday. Give Crime Talk some of your money and get yourself some gear. All right? I'm just joking. You don't have to buy it if you don't want to. Anyway, let's go ahead and open the record for Tuesday, December 2nd, 2025. First on the docket, Luigi Mangione back in court. That's right. New York City, Luigi Mangione, the man accused of fatally shooting the United Healthcare Chief Executive Officer Brian Thompson in Midtown Manhattan on December 4th of 2024, returned to the Manhattan Supreme Court on Tuesday for the second day of some pretrial evidentiary hearings. Now, the proceedings center on whether key evidence obtained during Mangione's arrest, including a firearm silencer and handwritten notebook, may be admitted at his upcoming trial on charges of second-degree murder and related weapons offenses. Now, Mangione got to play dress up. He was in a dark blue suit today, appeared quite composed as body camera and surveillance footage from his December 9th, 2024 arrest at a McDonald's restaurant in Altoona, Pennsylvania was shown to the court. Prosecutors intend to call more than 24 witnesses over the course of the multi-day hearing before the state's Supreme Court Justice Gregory Caro rules on the defense motion to suppress evidence. Now remember, in New York, the Supreme Court is the lowest court. It's the trial court. Because New York, they're like California. They got to do everything differently, right? So just remember that. We're at the trial court level. So they had testimony focusing on the arrest in Altoona, Pennsylvania. First, the prosecution called the Altoona police officer, Joseph Detweiler, who provided detailed testimony regarding the events leading to Mangione's apprehension. He stated that the suspect was initially identified by restaurant patrons and staff primarily due to his distinctive eyebrows, which were visible above the medical face mask that he was wearing, an uncommon sight in the area at that particular time. A 911 call from the McDonald's manager was played in court, and it described customers expressing alarm and urging police intervention based on the resemblance to images circulated during the nationwide manhunt for Mangione. On arrival, officers engaged Mangione, who was consuming a steak, egg, and cheese breakfast sandwich. Video evidence showed Detweiler initiating a casual conversation, including inquiries about the food quality to maintain calm while awaiting backup. Mangione initially presented identification under the alias Mark Rosario, but later acknowledged his true identity was in fact Luigi Mangione. Now, additional footage revealed Mangione carrying a backpack containing a 3D printed 9mm handgun with a suppressor, several $1,000s in cash, predominantly $100 bills, and it was held in a blue and white wallet featuring a Hawaiian tribal pattern and a sea turtle design. And there, of course, was the notebook the prosecutors alleged outlined animosity towards the health insurance industry. So what's the defense doing, right? Mangione's team contends that police conducted an unlawful, warrantless search of the backpack and questioned their client without first advising him of his Miranda rights. They further argue that certain proposed prosecution witnesses who identified Mangione solely from publicly released surveillance images rather than as direct eyewitnesses to the shooting should be precluded from providing identification testimony at trial. They also want to suppress the firearm and the suppressor and the notebook, which would obviously represent a significant setback for the district attorney if these items were in fact suppressed. Now, a limited number of spectators, including approximately 24 individuals who openly support Mr. Mangione, attended the session on Tuesday. Some members of the public have expressed sympathy for Mangione, viewing his alleged actions as a protest against perceived shortcomings in the American healthcare system. That's right. If you don't like a particular industry, what's the logical thing to do? Go shoot up CEOs of those particular industries, right? No, that's not the way we do things in America, ladies and gentlemen. But hey, it's also the First Amendment. Outside of the courthouse, there were smaller crowds gathered than the previous day, with no reported sales of spots in line for courtroom entry. Anyway, the hearing is scheduled to continue throughout the week and may extend into December 4th, marking the 1-year anniversary of the alleged murder that Luigi Mangione is accused of killing, specifically Brian Thompson. Now, the Judge Caro, has not indicated when he will issue a ruling on the suppression motion, and obviously Mangione remains in custody. It's not like he's going to get out. He's got a federal hold. He's got a murder case. He's not going anywhere. So we'll see where that goes. We talked about this a little bit yesterday. We can talk about it more. But the reality of it is should the evidence be suppressed? From what I've seen and what I've been able to read about it, I don't think it will be suppressed. I know that's bad for the Mangione fan club. But hey, that's the reality. We're not here to pander to a particular side. We tell you the way the facts are. Now, understand, it could get suppressed, and then the prosecution could then do an interlocutory appeal to say, hey, higher appellate courts, tell this lower court that they got it wrong. We'd have to wait and see. The reality of it is you got a guy that fits the description. He lies about his identity. Then he admits that he is in fact the guy that everybody's looking for, right? He's got a backpack. He's alleged to be armed and dangerous, right? He's accused of murder. Officer safety is going to dictate that you can kind of search within arm's distance of him, which you could normally include looking in there. Don't always like that idea, but I think that's the law, the state of the law currently. What are they supposed to do? Arrest him? Don't open the bag? Maybe leave it there? Right? Leave it there until they get a search warrant? No. Exigent circumstances, ladies and gentlemen. Officer safety are going to come in. Inevitable discovery are going to be the positions that the district attorney will take. Ultimately, we'll see what gets suppressed and what doesn't. We'll all find out at the exact same time. Next on the docket, day 2 of the Brian Walshe murder trial. So the second day of testimony in the murder trial of Brian Walshe unfolded at the Norfolk Superior Court, where prosecutors presented some key digital evidence from the defendant's device alongside continued examination of the initial missing persons investigation. So Walshe faces the first-degree murder charges in connection with the presumed death of his wife, Anna Walshe, back on January 1st of 2023. Now, Mr. Walshe has entered a plea of guilty to related charges of, dismembering and concealing his wife's body, as well as misleading investigators, but maintains he's innocent on the murder count. Proceedings resumed about 9 o'clock this morning following opening statements delivered the previous day. The district attorney, Gregory Connor, emphasized circumstantial evidence, including internet activity and physical items recovered from waste facilities. Now, the defense attorney, Larry Tipton, countered that Anna Walshe's death resulted from an unforeseen medical episode, like being chopped up. Hitting your head when it's being smashed against the floor. Those type of medical episodes. Just kidding. We'll have to wait and see. Anyway, prompted Walshe's subsequent actions out of fear and confusion, right? Because that's the logical thing to do, right, ladies and gentlemen? Oh my gosh, my wife has suffered a medical episode. I guess they're just going to assume that I had something to do with the medical episode. Let me go search how to get rid of and chop up her body, which he's pled guilty to. Hey, I get the defense attorney. Been a defense attorney 30 years. I get it. Sometimes you got to make those arguments. But I think it would have carried a little more weight when you said, I didn't dismember anybody. I don't know. I'd rather plead ignorance than admit to bad facts like that. But that's just me. Police Sergeant Harrison Schmidt, the lead investigator in the early stages of the Anna Walshe disappearance, returned to the witness stand to complete his direct examination and undergo cross-examination. Schmidt detailed the initial response to reports of Anna's absence that was received on January 4th from her Washington, D.C.-based employer. Prosecutors played audio recordings from Walsh's January 7th, 2023 interview conducted in the family home. And in the recordings, investigators questioned Walshe about Anna's last known activities and pressed him on whether he had, caused her any harm. Walshe responded affirmatively to queries about his commitment to the marriage, stating, "I would never harm her," and expressed the desire to spend the rest of my life with my wife. Apparently, he did. Anyway, he described her as an exemplary mother and wife, emphasizing the impact on their 3 young sons. Additional testimony covered a ransom email received by Schmidt during the preliminary search efforts. The message demanded $127,000 for Anna's return and included a stock photograph of a kidnapping scenario. Forensic analysis traced the email's IP address to Nigeria, confirming that it was a hoax. Schmidt also addressed items recovered from a Peabody trash facility, including a COVID-19 vaccination card bearing Anna Walsh's name, a pair of hunter boots, a black jacket, a Tyvek suit containing DNA from both Walshes, a hammer, a hatchet, and a hacksaw. These items aligned with descriptions that Walshe provided of Anna's attire on the day that she was last seen. Now, during cross-examination, Tipton questioned Schmidt on the absence of overt suspicious indicators during initial walkthroughs of the Walshe residence. Schmidt affirmed that no immediate red flags were noted, though forensic specialists were subsequently dispatched to the home. Tipton further explored Walsh's awareness of Anna's alleged extramarital relationship, confirming that Walshe had voluntarily disclosed the name of the individual involved to police. Schmidt noted Walsh's demeanor appeared composed when providing this information. And then, of course, we get to the digital forensic experts. Following the midday recess, Massachusetts State Police Trooper Nicholas Garino, a digital evidence specialist with the Norfolk District Attorney's Office, took the stand. Garino outlined his qualifications and the procedures for seizing and analyzing electronic devices from the Walsh's home, executed under a search warrant back on January 10th of 2023. Now, the devices processed included multiple Apple products, a MacBook, an iPhone 13 mini, an iPhone SE, and an iPad mini. Now, Garino utilized Celebrite software to create a forensic image of the data, focusing on activity from December 25th, 2022 through January 8th, 2023. He clarified that the majority of pertinent internet history originated from a MacBook using the Safari browser with some synchronization to the iPad. Well, what did we find? Well, Mr. Garino's testimony centered on the series of web searches conducted in the immediate aftermath of Anna's disappearance, which prosecutors argue demonstrates premeditation and concealment efforts. The queries, timestamped primarily on January 1st of 2023, encompass topics related to body disposal, forensic detection, and legal ramifications of disappearances. Notable examples include, here we go, best way to dispose of a body, 10 ways to dispose of a dead body, if you really need to, how long before a body starts to smell, how long for someone to be missing to inheritance, how long someone to be missing to be dead, how long does DNA last, is it possible to clean DNA off a knife, can identification be made on partial human remains, best ways to dispose of a body parts after murder. how to saw a body, how to dismember a body, hacksaw, the best tool to dismember a body. Can you be charged with murder without a body? How long for a dismembered body to decompose? Can a body decompose in a plastic bag? Which is obviously why he pled guilty to the dismemberment part, because clearly these searches do not indicate good things, ladies and gentlemen. But some of his searches ask for questions, if you have to get rid of a body after murder. It almost like he knew something. He didn't say how to get rid of a body after a medical emergency. Now, did he? Of course he didn't. Anyway, additional searches addressed cleaning techniques and evasion methods, such as how to clean blood from a wood floor. What does bleach do to dead bodies? How to clean body stains with hydrogen peroxide. And cleaning up blood without leaving a trace. 5 tips. Queries also touched on practical disposal logistics, including how to dispose of a cell phone. TJ Maxx near me, Norwell, and how long do stores keep security footage? All completely innocent queries shortly after your wife suffers a medical emergency and you Google how to chop up a body after a murder. Anyway, the expert, Mr. Garino, further testified about a search of Patrick Kearney, referring to the convicted serial killer known as the Trash Bag Killer, alongside references to YouTube videos on cleaning up a dead body and articles like, "Want to get away with murder? Use special detergent." Prosecutors also introduced audio from a January 8th, 2023 interview at Walshe's attorney's residence, where investigators confronted him about these searches. They initially were attributed to his son's iPad, and Walshe denied familiarity with the device, stating, "I don't use that iPad, so that's really weird." A visible cut on his thumb was noted during the booking later that day. Now, of course, the defense got to do what they got to do, and I get it. They got to do what they got to do. They challenged the evidence. Tipton initiated cross-examination of Garino, probing the extraction process and contextual interpretations of the searches. He inquired whether Garino could predict exact search engine results for terms like how to dispose of a body, to which Garino replied, "That outcome varies dramatically." Tipton suggested that broader queries might yield irrelevant results, such as cemetery listings, necessitating refinement like adding murder for specificity, right? Regarding searches related to divorce proceedings, Tipton argued they could stem from routine inquiries into family assets amid discussions of property sales rather than marital discord. He confirmed Garino's lack of awareness of contemporaneous text messages between the Walshes on the topic. Tipton also highlighted that initial analysis misattributed the searches to the iPad, later corrected to the MacBook via synchronization. Anyway, court adjourned about 3:40 this afternoon, with testimony scheduled to resume Wednesday morning. Prosecution anticipates further witnesses to bolster the timeline for the events, while the defense continues to frame Walsh's actions as a panicked response to a tragedy rather than criminal intent. Now, the trial is projected to span 3 weeks, hinging on circumstantial evidence in the absence of Anna Walsh's remains. I guess the only person we could possibly ask would be, well, Mr. Walshe, now wouldn't it? I wonder if he's going to get up and explain away the medical emergency. Well, he was so panicked that he had to chop her up and dispose of her body. Anyway, a conviction on the first-degree murder charge carries mandatory life sentence without the possibility of parole. Now, obviously, Mr. Walshe is entitled to the presumption of innocence, and certainly we do give that to him. Next, a firebug caught laughing as he watched the house that he set fire that had, 4 people inside. Yes, let's jump to Independence, Missouri, where police say 35-year-old Taylor Berghoff took the concept of watching something burn a bit too literally and with suspiciously good seating. So while firefighters battled a blaze at a home on November 20th, witnesses report seeing a man later identified as Berghoff posting up nearby, apparently treating the inferno like the season finale of his favorite show. One neighbor told police the suspect was laughing and watching the fire with the relaxed vibe of someone enjoying a barbecue that definitely wasn't his. Officers found him strolling just 2 blocks away, still clucking the ultimate arson starter kit, 2 lighters tucked in his pocket like he was heading to a very committed birthday party. When the detectives asked later about his whereabouts, Berghoff went with the classic, "I've never seen that house in my life" defense. I've never seen that house in my life defense, despite multiple people inside the home, 4 to be exact, placing him on the porch minutes earlier, yelling, knocking, and according to one resident, casually grabbing what looked suspiciously like a gas can. Miraculously, no one was hurt, and the fire stayed polite enough to spare the interior, but the outside of the house still got the full roasted marshmallow treatment. Berghoff now faces arson charges and is cooling his heels in the Jackson County Detention Center on a cool $30,000 bond, presumably without access to anything that sparks. His next court appearance is scheduled later this week, where one assumes he'll continue to insist that he was simply in the neighborhood for the ambiance. Yep. Next, our favorite Wisconsin inmate, who already has forever and a day for her sentence, picks up an extra 90 days. Yes, let's go to Fond du Lac. I think I'm pronouncing that correctly. Fond du Lac, Wisconsin. In what can only be described as the judicial equivalent of adding a cherry on top of a life sentence sundae, Taylor Shaw business. The Green Bay woman currently serving life without parole for the 2022 murder and dismemberment of Shad Thyron has been handed an additional 90 days in jail for assaulting a prison sergeant, because apparently never getting out still left room for a postscript. So on Monday, Fond du Lac County Judge Anthony Nels sentenced Shaw business after she pled guilty in October to misdemeanor disorderly conduct stemming from a July 2024 incident at the correctional institution where she's being held. The attack occurred, court records show, while the sergeant was kindly escorting Miss Shaw business to the medical unit after she managed to embed a staple in her own arm. One moment, helpful prison staff. Next moment, impromptu wrestling match. Prosecutors rolled previously unseen body cam footage in court that one imagines looks less like a training video, more like an outtake from a very niche horror franchise. The assaulted sergeant has been unable to return to work due to her injuries, which prosecutors described as long-lasting, a diplomatic way of saying that Shaw business remains an enthusiastic hobbyist in the field of chaos. The district attorney informed the court that the victim specifically wanted the judge to know that the attack had real consequences. Somewhere, a calendar manufacturer quietly wept at the thought of printing 90 days consecutive to life without parole. The defense attorney, Christopher Froelich, who it should be noted replaced Shaw Business's previous lawyer after she attacked him during an earlier court hearing, argued that his client is taking responsibility and working to overcome a methamphetamine addiction. He described her life as difficult, which at this point, feels like the understatement of the fiscal year, doesn't it? Well, Miss Shaw Business herself addressed the court with her characteristic eloquence. "I ain't no blank. I didn't mean to go off on that blank like that at all. And I'm sorry for that." She then suggested a more reasonable punishment, maybe 10 days at least on the bracelet or something. Perhaps unaware that ankle monitors are generally not issued to people whose release date is sometime after the heat death of the universe. Anyway, Froelich says he plans to appeal the 90-day sentence, a bold legal strategy roughly equivalent to challenging a parking ticket issued to a car that had already been compacted into a cube, but expressed relief that the case is finally resolved so his client can access prison programming. One assumes anger management. Maybe that's the one she's going for. Advanced topics are already waitlisted, I guess. Anyway, in summary, Taylor Shaw Business will serve as an extra 3 months after she finished serving forever. Sources close to the calendar industry remain baffled but cautiously optimistic about future business from the Wisconsin courts. Next, an Alabama lawyer allegedly turns Till Death Do Us Part into a 3-act fentanyl drama. Let's jump to Cullman, Alabama, in what reads like a rejected script from a particularly dark episode of Matlock. A 74-year-old attorney with decades of experience in criminal defense and divorce law has been accused of attempting to expedite her husband's exit from their 30-year marriage using fentanyl as the weapon of choice, according to prosecutors. Please meet Sarah Baker, a longtime Cullman practitioner who proudly advertises her expertise in criminal defense, divorce, and custody law on social media, allegedly decided that the divorce part of her resume needed more permanent footnotes. Between September 4th and September 20th, police allege she slipped what she believed to be fentanyl into her husband's food or drink on 3 separate occasions, apparently treating the month like a murderous advent calendar. The intended victim, who suffered a stroke several years ago and relied on his wife for full-time care, survived the trio of alleged poisoning despite experiencing significant physical impairment. Prosecutors described the plot as a calculated conspiracy that began as early as September 1st, when Baker is said to have met with at least one accomplice to map out the logistics of turning in sickness and in health into simply in sickness. Adding a layer of courtroom farce to the tragedy, one of Baker's own clients, Felicia Nicole Cofield, allegedly attempted to dispose of incriminating fentanyl by swallowing it herself when police came a-knocking. Cofield, whom Baker had been representing in unrelated criminal proceedings, now faces evidence tampering and charges for her impromptu opioid buffet. Local attorneys expressed a mixture of dismay and professional deja vu. It's just sad, remarked fellow Alabama lawyer Will League, that someone who you know exactly what the consequences are would still go to these lengths. The irony that was not lost on investigators poring over Baker's cheerfully curated Facebook timeline. In August, mere weeks before the alleged poisoning campaign began, she marked the couple's 29th wedding anniversary with the post, "29 years of marriage to this super guy has been quite a ride. I love you." A 2021 entry declared that she was still crazy about this guy. One imagines the husband recovering in whatever room the police have stashed him now may feel slightly less crazy in return. Now, Baker was arrested on November 25th and faces charges of attempted murder, elder abuse, and domestic violence. She remains in the Cullman County Detention Center awaiting a bond hearing, presumably without access to the kitchen. For those keeping score at home, when your day involves keeping clients out of prison for murder for hire plots, perhaps considering you outsource your own marital grievances to a less lethal professional. Next on the docket, this day in legal history, December 2nd, 1859, abolitionist John Brown is executed. That's right, after being tried and convicted of treason against Virginia, murder, and inciting slave insurrection for his raid on Harper's Ferry, John Brown is hanged in Charlestown, Virginia. Now, the case and execution inflame tensions over slavery and the use of violence against slaveholders, echoing through later constitutional and civil rights debates. Next, December 2nd, 1991, opening testimony in the William Kennedy Smith rape trial. That's right. In Palm Beach County, Florida, opening testimony began in the highly publicized rape trial of William Kennedy Smith, a member of the Kennedy clan. The televised proceedings raised major issues around rape shield laws, admissibility of prior acts evidence, media coverage of criminal trials, and victims' privacy. Smith was acquitted days later. How about December 2nd, 2001, Enron, remember them? Yep, Enron energy trading giant files for Chapter 11 bankruptcy in federal court in New York, then the largest corporate bankruptcy in U.S. history. The collapse driven by, some accounting errors or fraud and some off-balance sheet entries prompted major reforms in security and corporate governance, including the Sarbanes-Oxley Act of 2002. How about, a legal quote of the day regarding sentencing. Why is that on my mind today? Well, I came from a sentencing before I'm doing this video. Retribution is an expression of society's moral disapproval of the offender's conduct. It reflects the community's legitimate demand that those who transgress its norms be punished in proportion to the gravity of their wrongdoing. Now, while rehabilitation, deterrence, and incapacitation serve important ends, retribution remains a core justifying aim of punishment in a just legal order. Now, that was from United States Supreme Court decision in Ewing v. California, written by then Justice O'Connor, describing the enduring place of retribution justice in American sentencing. And she cited the Gregg v. George case, also a Supreme Court case, which quoted as follows: "The instinct for retribution is part of the nature of men, and channeling that instinct in the administration of criminal justice serves an important purpose in promoting the stability of a society governed by law. When people begin to believe that organized society is unwilling or unable to impose upon criminal offenders the punishments they deserve, then there are sown the seeds of anarchy." Basically saying, hey, you got to punish people, otherwise it's going to get crazy, ladies and gentlemen. Almost like there's no law and order anymore. And finally, our dumb criminal of the day. Let's jump to Shreveport, Louisiana. A popular treasure hunter helped Shreveport police find a handgun in a local lake. The YouTuber Bryce Natchway used magnetic fishing equipment to recover a weapon from the Cross Lake. Police identified Alexis Maloney as the person who threw the stolen handgun into the water. A treasure hunter with more than 3.7 million followers on Facebook posted a video series Sunday following his quest to find the handgun in Shreveport Lake. Now, Outdoors Weekly, run by Bryce Natchway, a popular YouTuber who shares his adventures in treasure hunting, magnet fishing, and scuba diving, drove 13 hours in September to help the police find the gun. Now, Natchway saw a video circulating on social media back in September showing a woman throwing a handgun into the water. And according to this YouTuber, following his research, he discovered the gun was thrown off Cross Lake Bridge. "We left Florida immediately and drove all the way to Louisiana to go find this gun that was thrown into the water," he said. Using tactical magnetic fishing equipment, the Outdoors Weekly team successfully found and recovered the handgun while Shreveport police officers were on scene. The police department said it extended its gratitude to the YouTuber and Outdoors Weekly team for their extraordinary efforts and their assistance in locating the gun. Now, Alexis Malone, probably not so appreciative, was later identified as the person who threw the gun off the bridge. She allegedly stole the gun in Fort Worth, Texas. She was charged with 1 count of illegal possession of a stolen firearm and 1 count of child desertion. Not exactly sure where that came in, but obviously she's not being the mother of the year. Anyway, she's booked into the Shreveport City Jail. Once again, don't live stream the crime scene, ladies and gentlemen. That's why she is our dumb criminal of the day. Congratulations, you made it. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. And remember, the Constitution matters.